Been reading all about your life and all the things that you've done in your very young, comparatively young life. You've played here with all the great symphony orchestras on the Domain to the crowds. Tell us, where does that love of the violin come from?
It's kind of an accidental love of the violin. I started really young. I started when I was 4, and I didn't come from a musical family, but my parents put me on violin because they had a lot of trouble handling me. They think that I had ADHD as a little kid, and they didn't want to go down the road of medications or anything like that. And someone convinced them that maybe if they put me on an instrument to channel my energy every day, it might help with their parenting. So that's the reason why I started violin, and over time I fell in love with it. I had a lot of zeal for it as a young child, I remember that, but when I was about 12, after taking a few years of lessons, I really just had a moment where I fell in love with it, and I knew I wanted to do it for the rest of my life.
Gosh, that's an amazing way of dealing with activity, isn't it? To give somebody a violin and let them develop it. Was there a point at which you really knew this was going to be something you would do for a career, or something that was going to determine your life? Was there some moment when that happened?
Absolutely. I was 12 when that happened. I just changed to a new teacher, and I started studying at the Conservatorium in Adelaide, and I just started high school at the same time, and I had just the most amazing lesson with my new teacher, who was an amazing performer in her day, and she just brought the music to life for me in a way that I'd never felt before. And I just remember not knowing that I had the talent or the ability to do it, but I just knew I wanted to more than anything. I knew that this was what I was going to do. So
was a real mentoring going on there with somebody that you sort of looked to and respected? Absolutely,
yes, definitely. You know, musically, she was the most amazing mind, and she taught me so many things over the years that I was at high school. I was really having an education as an adult in music and in just bringing music to life, really.
And you're doing that for other people yourself now, where you get the opportunity?
Yeah, I have that chance now. I'm teaching now back where I studied at the Adelaide Conservatorium. I just have a few students, but it's great. It's a really, really wonderful thing to have the opportunity to do.
Now, I know you're a committed Christian, and you say quite openly that you're as happy playing in church as you are anywhere else. I mean, is that because you see this as in some way related to a sense of calling and a God-given gift?
Definitely, and it's been something that I've wrestled with over that whole time, because when you start something at such a young age, you almost feel like you didn't have the choice. And as a young child, I just, having that knowledge that I was meant to do it for no good reason other than just the sense that I had, and over years working out that that's actually has been God in my life, and just all the things and doors that He's opened up for me, and just the way that just over the years things have worked out. I just can't help but see that God's hand has been on that side of my life, and there's never been a moment where I felt that there's a conflict and I need to give it up, and so I really feel that there's more to be done, and it's.
And do you feel especially connected some way in terms of God when you're playing?
Definitely. I mean, I feel very lucky that, playing violin and playing any instrument is such an amazing way to connect with your emotions. And for musicians, it's an amazing gift to be able to, in a hard time, be able to take your instrument into a quiet place and play. And for me, instead of just playing for the sake of playing, I've had this opportunity to really play to God and express my emotions to Him through that. And I feel that when I play, I feel like I'm speaking words. So sometimes when I'm talking in a rehearsal, I say, the notes, and I accidentally say, when you're saying this, and because I really feel that it's an expression, and it's just as real to me as expressing through words.
Look, this is a question I often ask of people who are musicians. I know that the classical tradition is very much important to you, and you present as not only play, but I know that you've been involved in broadcasting, and all that's very exciting, I'm sure. But the music you play in church and the music you play when you're in a symphony orchestra in Brisbane or Sydney are going to be very, very different, aren't they? How do you handle all that? I mean, how do you see music and style?
Well, it's completely different playing a concerto with a symphony orchestra as opposed to standing at church and joining in with, whatever songs they're singing on the stage. And so as far as just technically and all that kind of stuff, it's just a completely different world. But I guess for me, music isn't just something that you turn on for a certain genre of music. For me, I love all different types of music, and so I find it quite easy to connect with so many different genres. So it's not just classical, but I find that through classical and through, I mean, you know, composers like Bach, he originally wrote for the church, and his music, even though it's typical classical repertoire, I feel like it's so amazingly deep and spiritual. I feel like he's saying so many incredible things through it. So even though there's no words again for that, and it's totally different to what you would do in modern churches, for me, it's all interconnected.
And so much of that classical music was really based on the passion and death of Christ, wasn't it? That people sometimes listen to this and forget actually really what it's about. It's some of the deep stuff.
Yeah, often. I mean, the history of so many pieces, and it's been great as a performer now to actually research whatever it is that I'm playing, and it could be based on something that's going on during a period of war or a period of really difficult times in the life of the composer, and then definitely there is so much music that's written you know, through the church or just between the composer and just this relationship with God that they have. That it's quite interesting, the history behind a lot of the music.
Niki, have you got a moment when you've been performing, it's a very special moment for you, something you look back on and said, that's what I really remember most of all?
Well, most of the time I'm pretty scared, because what I do, I generally would be standing in front of an orchestra of people who I respect and am quite frightened of, because they're amazing musicians, and I'm scared that I'm going to fall apart because I'm playing there without music. And you know, I play a piece that goes between 30 and 50 minutes without music, and the preparation process for that is many, many months, and so it's very difficult to actually get outside of that fear. And there's been times, and actually the more I do it now, the more comfortable I've become, and I'm having more and more moments of, wow, this is just amazing. But I guess it's interesting. Like a few years ago, I got to play for the Symphony Under the Stars in the Domain here in Sydney with the Sydney Symphony, and you know, there were 100,000 people there, and I mean, it was, it'll never get better than that. It's just awesome and absolutely amazing. And I remember just going, just got to take this in and enjoy it. But as you just said, the question, I thought, you know, last year a friend of mine proposed to his girlfriend, a friend of mine from church, and he invited me to come with him early in the morning with a quartet and wake her up out the front of her house and play a song that he wrote for her about how much he loved her and just how grateful he was to God for her in his life. And I think for me, having the opportunity to be part of something like that was pretty awesome. So
I hope because of this you don't get hundreds of people writing in and saying, we'd like you to come and play at some romantic occasion.
Just friends. But for an opportunity like that, and to be able to play violin and be able to be part of that.
Look, I also know that you're very concerned about social issues too, and that's a very important part of your life. How's that developed?
Well, it's just been something since I was a young child. I mean, my father is a minister, and I've grown up in a church, and it's been something that, in a way, I've been wired to do because of my upbringing, but also something that over the years I've taken on just a real, I guess, a burden for some different issues. I mean, I feel particularly at the moment, I look at just the local church, and I look at the church that I go to, and you know, the kids that come to our youth group, and so many of them are from the most crazy backgrounds and upbringings. And I think, you know, just in our doorstep, just within the local church, there's so much that we can help with. And I just feel all of my time outside of violin is that. But then for me, I've got a real heart for working with Indigenous communities in rural Australia, and I've over a short period of time lately seen that through my music and through the teaching and just through, I guess, the contacts that I've been making. I've had the opportunity to try and pull together teams of people to actually start doing some training and music programs that are going to help the community.
You're going to play for His Amazing Grace, and this year that's a very special song for people all over the world, and so it's going to be exciting to listen to. Thanks for having the opportunity of being with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.